there we are, Buddhism in a nutshell. And today's course, is the Buddha's path to enlightenment. But we're definitely, not to scare you, we're not doing the whole path today. It's just an idea of what being a Buddhist looks like and what the path kind of looks like. So I wanted to know, before we got into it, did anybody have any questions from last week? Did anything come up? Anything lingering? Nothing? Okay, I can't see all of you here, but I'm just assuming everybody's okay. All right then, well let's get cracking. And here's a nice picture of Shakimini Buddha. All right then, so let's just, I might just unshare this so I can look at you all. How do I unshare? Stop share. Oh, no, go back. That's a Tisha. Going back. All right. All right, here we are again. Okie dokie. I'm going to put you on full screen. See, I'm getting so good at this technology, hey? All right, so let's just settle into our meditation posture. I wanted to check in with everybody first. Has everyone done some form of the 9-round breathing? If not with me, someone else? Barbara, you've done something like that? Okay. All right, great. That's easy. Then I will go through it though. Okay. So let's just settle. Bring your mind to the same place your body is. If you are sitting at a desk, on a chair, and your feet are down, you can have them supported underneath a cushion. Have a cushion underneath. Legs are in a parallel position. And your sits bones slightly raised. Well, 2 to 4 inches. Hands are in the meditation mudra, right hand nestled in the left with the thumbs touching. And your shoulders are aligned with your hips. And you may recognize these points from last week. And imagine your spine is a string of pearls of light stretching from the base all the way up through the crown of the head and beyond. And imagine someone is above or behind, very gently lengthening your spine. And your head is slightly tipped forward, and the eyes are down, looking along the length of the nose. If they were open, you would be looking at a spot about 2 inches ahead. Tip of the tongue is on the roof of the mouth, the lips are slightly apart, and just relax the jaw. And bring our attention to the crown of the head. Relax the scalp and the forehead, the eyes, the back of the eye, the nose, the cheeks, the area around the mouth, the jaw again. And bring your attention to the back of your head, the scalp there, and just relax that area, paying particular attention to the occipital area, the base of the skull. If you like, you can imagine you're shining a nice warm light into your ears, ear canal, relaxing everything inside, your eardrum, canal. You're getting right to the back of the jaw and the back of the tongue. Relax that area, the temple. Release any tension in your neck, your shoulders, shoulder blades. The upper thoracic. Relax the throat, the chest, the belly, limbs, hands, fingers, and feet and toes. And bring the mind to the breath, noticing the sensation of the air as you're inhaling, flowing in through the nostrils and exhaling slightly warmer. And depending on whether you have studied meditation before with maybe someone in the Theravada or Pali tradition, those Vipassana courses that are offered, they may tell you to focus at a spot on the base of the nose or the tip of the nose. But for our purposes, it's fine. Just feel any sensation along the outside of the nose as you're breathing in, the nostrils. If there are any sounds in your environment, perhaps down there in Santa Fe there's a lot of wind. In northern New Mexico right now there is here too in California. And it can kind of stir up the mind, particularly if there's a threat of fire. So just allow those sounds to be there. If there's people in your home, animals, just relax around them. And let the sounds fade into the background as you refocus your mind on the breath. And then notice your mind. We don't pay terribly much attention to what's going on in our mind. We just have a bunch of thoughts and feelings and emotions and discomfort. And we often don't even know we're depressed until we can't get out of bed one day. We don't even know we're angry until somehow we want to harm someone. And then people are like, oh, I don't know what happened. There was anger boiling under there for years. So it's really good to identify all of these things that are going on in the mind and deal with them before they kind of come out the mouth or in some action. But for now, just allow the thoughts to arise, to abide and fall. And if you like, you can imagine you're sitting on the bank of a river and watching the river flow by, watching your thoughts flow by, not engaging with them. And while you're sitting on the bank of the river, you are free from the river. And just breathe. Now imagine you are surrounded by all the people of your life, all your friends and loved ones, those from whom you care deeply, those with whom you have positive and constructive relationships, so your spouses, lovers, children, relatives, colleagues, and your dear friends. And imagine all those people with whom you have some difficulty, people who are irritating, people for whom you have anger, or those who are angry with you. Whoever is causing a problem for you. And those are the people in your life you would like to avoid or who you reject. And finally, imagine all the strangers in your life. The person in front of you at the traffic light. And these people pass through our lives every day, but we don't think about them. We don't know their names. We don't know them. And for the most part, we treat them with disregard. So imagine that all these people of your life, your friends, your enemies, strangers surrounding you, doing this course with you, studying, reflecting, and meditating with you. And then just revisit what brought you to this course. Why are you interested in it, and are your aspirations still the same? Are your goals still the same? And what are you still hoping to learn and to find? And perhaps the fulfillment of those goals will affect those people around you. So now just try and expand your mind a little and your aspirations to include not only your own welfare and your own benefit, but also the benefit of all those people of your life. So beginning to think beyond our own desires, our own needs and wishes, and expanding our hearts to include others, begins this transformation that is the heart of this Mahayana practice. So we decide, make a strong determination to get the most benefit from this course, to achieve the goals for yourself and for all the people of your life. So we'll just move into our 9-round breathing now. And excuse me. So just as we're breathing in initially through our right nostril, blocking off the left with the back of the index right finger, you can count to 4, a nice steady breath in, not too fast, we don't want to hyperventilate. And you're breathing in blissful, radiant white light and pausing at the top of the breath. Move the finger over, block the right nostril, and breathe out through the left all your attachment energy, and grasping and neediness and wanting and not feeling enough, feeling like you don't have enough. And all this energy, this desire, unhealthy desire and neediness, it leaves you as thick black yucky smoke. So you do that 3 times. Then breathe in through the left nostril, blissful radiant white light. And again, if you wish, you can breathe in for the count of 4. Pause at the top of the breath and breathe out for a count of 4. Through your right nostril, all your anger energy. And this includes depression and jealousy and wish to harm and grudges and bitterness. And this leaves you as thick black yucky smoke. You do that 3 times. And then breathe in through both nostrils, blissful radiant white light. Pausing at the top of the breath. Breathe out through both nostrils. All your ignorance energy. And this is not only ignorance of just kind of misinterpreting an email, for example, or a text message, or not knowing things, not knowing how a star forms, for example. But it's the ignorance of not understanding or appreciating karma, cause and effect, or how things truly exist in the Buddhist cosmology, according to Buddha. So you breathe that out as thick black yucky smoke, and you do that 3 times. So we're going to do today 3 sets of 3. So when you've finished, just bring your mind back to the breath and just feel. And just notice if you're feeling any different to when we first started, just almost 20 minutes ago. Now we're going to move into the Shakimini Buddha meditation, and this meditation will be about 10 minutes long. So if you feel like you need to have a sip of water or have a drink, you're very welcome to do that right now, or just very welcome to stay in meditation. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche recommends to do this meditation before we do any lamrim, any study or any practice or any attending any teachings. And we're not quite on the lamrim, but we are starting to discuss the lamrim today a little bit. We're still on the wisdom wing, the lower scope, as they call it. So I thought we'll just add this in. It's a very sweet meditation, this one. And I'll just do this wee little prayer. Michael, I'll answer your question later about the 9-round breathing. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Excuse me. So just generate in your mind a sense of love and compassion for all those people of your life, even the ones you don't like. Perhaps more for them you can think of in a compassionate way, wishing for them to not suffer. So just reflect briefly on their predicament, their wish to experience true happiness and their inability to obtain it, their wish to avoid suffering, and they're constantly encountering all kinds of problems. And think, in order to help all beings and lead them to the perfect peace and happiness of enlightenment, I myself must attain enlightenment. And so for this purpose, this is why we're practicing this meditation. So now I will screen share this image of the Buddha. It says right now only the host can share. Just wait 1 second. Here I am. It's okay, I've got it. All right. Here we are, Shakimini Buddha. So this image, this is just here for you if you have difficulty visualizing. So every aspect of the visualization is made of light. And it's not this kind of flat like it is showing here as if it was a tanka. So it's pure, transparent, intangible, and also radiant. They say if you actually were in front of the Buddha, the light would be so bright you wouldn't be able to look at it, the light emanating from his body. And you can have this Buddha at the level of your forehead, between 6 and 8 feet away. And you can have this image as large or as small as you like. Larger is easier to imagine. And if visualization is not really your thing, you can just imagine a ball of golden light. Just imagine a light body there. You, first of all, to start the visualization, you imagine a large golden throne adorned with jewels and supported at each of its corners by a pair of snow lions. And these animals in reality are manifestations of bodhisattvas, and they have a white fur and tail and a green mane and tail, and they're also made of light. And on the flat surface of the throne is a seat consisting of a large open lotus and 2 radiant discs representing the sun and the moon, and they're one on top of the other. And these 3 objects together symbolize the 3 principal aspects of the path to enlightenment: the lotus renunciation, the sun emptiness, and the moon bodhicitta. And we'll go through these, I think, next week and the week after. Seated on this is the Buddha, who has attained these realizations and is the embodiment of all enlightened beings. His body is made of golden light, and he's wearing the saffron robes of a monk. And his robes do not actually touch his body, but are separated from it by about an inch. So you can also imagine this is the mind of your Lama, the mind of your teacher, manifesting in this form for your benefit, this Buddha form. It just makes it a little bit personal for us. If you have a teacher, and if you don't, and you have a relationship, or you like a particular teacher, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, for example, you can imagine this is His Holiness. It's a little bit more difficult to imagine a being that's painted on a tanka that was alive sort of 2,000 years ago. So Buddha's seated in the full lotus posture with each foot over the opposite thigh. The palm of his right hand rests on his right knee. The fingers are touching the moon cushion, signifying his great control over his delusions. His left hand rests in his lap in the meditation pose, holding a bowl filled with nectar, and this is the medicine for curing our disturbing states of mind and all our other hindrances. And Buddha's face is very beautiful. His smiling, compassionate gaze is directed at you and simultaneously towards all the sentient beings in your life. And just really feel that he's free of any kind of judgmental thoughts, critical thoughts towards you. I mean, he just, however it is you've turned up this evening, he just accepts you, or this morning, wherever you are in the world, just accepts you exactly as you are, meeting you where you're at. He has these beautiful, long, lotus-like eyes. His lips are cherry red and has long earlobes. His hair is blue-black, and each hair is individually curled to the right, not mixed with the others. And every feature of his appearance represents an attribute of his holy mind. And just imagine rays of light are emanating from every pore of Buddha's pure body and reach every corner of the universe. And these rays are actually composed of countless tiny, tiny Buddhas. Some are going out to help living beings, and others are dissolving back into his body, having finished their work. Excuse me. So really feel the living presence of the Buddha, taking refuge in him, and just recalling his perfect qualities, his willingness to help, and his ability to do so. So make a request from your heart to receive his blessings and to help you become free from all your negative energy, your misconceptions, and other problems, and to receive all the realizations of the path to enlightenment. Excuse me. And imagine your request is accepted, and a stream of purifying white light, which is in the nature of the enlightened mind, flows from Buddha's heart and enters your body through the crown of your head. And it's just the same as when you walk into a room, a dark room, and you switch on a light. That light instantly dispels the darkness, doesn't it? So the same here. The darkness of the negativity of your mind is instantly dispelled with this light from Buddha. And as this light flows into you, it fills your body, purifying you of all your negativities as we recite the mantra. So you just imagine this light flowing into you and filling you and purifying you as we recite Buddha's mantra. O Jaya Dao Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha Jaya Mamunaye Soha Taya Dao Muni Muni Mamunaye Soha. Now feel that all your negative energy, all your problems and subtle obscurations have been completely purified, and your body feels blissful and light. And just meditate like this for 1 minute. Now imagine a stream of golden light descends from Buddha's heart, flows into your body through the crown of your head. And the essence of this light is the excellent qualities of his pure body, speech, and mind. So the texts say that he was able to transform, or he can transform his body into different forms, animate and inanimate, in order to help living beings according to their individual needs and their particular states of mind. And with his speech, he can communicate different aspects of the Dharma simultaneously to beings of various levels of development and be understood by them in their respective languages and dialects. And this clairvoyant mind can see every atom of existence, every occurrence, every moment, past, present, and future. And he knows the thoughts of every living being. And this is a kind of awareness that everybody has within them. This possibility is there. To have this level of awareness moment by moment. And so these infinite good qualities flow into every part of your body. So just concentrate on this blissful experience as we recite the mantra again. Om Jaya Dao Muni Muni Mamunaye Soha Jaya Dao Muni Muni Mamunaye Soha Jaya Dao Muni Muni Mamunaye Soha. Now imagine you've actually received all these incredible, excellent qualities of the Buddha's body, speech and mind. And your body feels light and blissful. So we'll meditate like this for 1 minute. Now imagine the 8 snow lions absorb into the throne into the lotus, and the lotus into the sun and the moon, and they in turn absorb into the Buddha, who now comes to the space above the crown of your head and melts into light and dissolves into your body and your ordinary sense of feeling busy, I want to eat dinner, I'm not worthy enough, I've got all these faults and problems, I'm not really I hope no one gets to see what a really bad person I really am. That all these ideas and conceptions are wrong. And just imagine they disappear completely. And in that instant, you become one with the Buddha's blissful, omniscient mind and the aspect of vast empty space. So just expand your mind for 1 minute. Now imagine that from this empty place, this empty state, there appear in the place where you're sitting the throne, the lotus, the sun and the moon, and you're sitting on these yourself as the Buddha. And everything is in the nature of light, just the same as you have visualized in front of you earlier. Really feel that you are the Buddha. Identify with this enlightened wisdom and compassion. And feel inspired by it rather than feeling down with your own regular, usual incorrect self-view. And surrounding you in every direction, filling all of space, are all the living beings. And generate love and compassion for them, again recalling that they too want to achieve happiness and peace of mind, and they want to be free from all their problems. And now that you're enlightened, you can help them. So at your heart are a lotus and a moon, and standing upright around the circumference of the moon, reading clockwise, are the syllables of the mantra, Tayata Om Muni Muni Maha Munaye Svaha. And the seed syllable Mum stands at the moon's center. So imagine now rays of light. This is actually your wisdom, your compassion, emanating from every letter and spreading in all directions. And imagine they reach the countless sentient beings surrounding you and completely purifying them of all their problems and delusions and negative states of mind, and filling them with inspiration and strength as we recite the mantra. O Tayada Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha Tayada Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha Tayada Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soha. And now really feel you've led all the sentient beings to enlightenment, thus fulfilling my intention for doing this meditation. And now you can imagine that everyone surrounding you is in the form of Buddha and is experiencing complete bliss. The the wisdom of emptiness. Just meditate like this for 1 minute. Expand your mind. So this kind of practice is known as bringing the future result into the present path. And it's a powerful cause for our own enlightenment because it's helping us to develop conviction in our own Buddhahood, our potential. And what we have just done in this meditation, they say we will definitely accomplish one day. It's just all there within you, in your mind stream. Okay, everyone, just relax while I stop share. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions? I know, Michael, you have a question. Michael's question was, does it matter which finger you use to block which nostril? And I think at our level, probably not. I'm just teaching it the way Lama Yeshe taught it. So he was obviously teaching the opposite. So the same finger as the nostril you're breathing in, and then breathing out. You just shift it over. And then he had us do, then as you're breathing in through the left nostril, had you using your left finger. I can check it up. I can ask somebody, but I think probably it has something to do, the very advanced meditators, this is a practice they use, it's called to clear the channels and the chakras, and because we have all this kind of like subtle energy body within us. And they do it to just because, and I don't know if you notice, but if you had any anger or any attachment in your mind, after you've done that meditation, you feel kind of much lighter. And I notice I practice it myself if I'm having a bad day or something. It's a good thing to sit down and just do. Rather than reacting, it's a really good thing just to sit down and do the 9-round breathing. If you can remember to do it, sometimes that can be a bit of a problem. We forget that we have these resources at our fingertips when we're in the height of some whatever emotion. It's like, oh, I could have, yeah. Anyway, does that answer your question, Michael? And I think also too, in yoga, they call that valving in yoga. And I think in yoga, I'm not exactly sure of the mudra. It might be something like this, but they just use, these two fingers, I think. And they just go from side to side. So if no, please don't copy me because I'm not exactly, I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm not sure if it's entirely correct, but I will ask my yoga teacher and let you guys know because it's slightly different. So they just use one hand. So I think according to your tradition and what the purpose is, it would. But I suspect for Lama Yeshe, it's something to do with the crossing of the energy and the channels, and I don't exactly know for sure. So I'm sorry, it's not particularly satisfying answer. Anyway, anybody else have any questions before we move on? No? Okay. I am going. So now I'm going to introduce you to, I have to go back to share screen. Oh, where were we? This one. Wait for it. Lama Atisha Dipankara. And he's a Sri Junana, and he is a Bengali. He was a Bengali prince. This statue is in Tushita Dharamsala at the FPMT Meditation Center there. And I'm talking about him today because he wrote this beautiful little text called Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, which is actually, then it was developed a little bit further by Lama Tsongkhapa. It's actually called the lamrim, and in Tibetan that means stages of the path. And so Dipankara was a prince. He was born in Bengal in India. That's eastern northern India. And he was a very famous scholar at Nalanda Monastery. And so we looked at Nalanda Monastery last week, where we saw the ruins. So he was there, he was a teacher and extremely popular, very knowledgeable. And his he was one of India's principal teachers of mind training. He also went to Indonesia. I mean, can you imagine in those days how difficult it would have been to get around? But he went to Indonesia on a boat. I hear the trip was very rough. And he learnt from another scholar called Saralingpa about bodhicitta. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. So how he got to Tibet is an interesting story. So from the 7th century, has everyone heard of Padmasambhava or Guru Rinpoche? I mean, we've all heard of him, right? So he was actually a real person, not just this kind of, celestial being that flew around everywhere, but he was a highly realized being. And I think it was him that brought Buddhism to Tibet in the 7th or 8th century. And Buddhism flourished there for a while, and then it started to decline as people started to misinterpret. I think around about the 9th century, people started to misinterpret what Tantra was. They were getting very confused with the teachings. And then there was a king there who really wanted to destroy Buddhism. And so it started to kind of fade away, and it was getting quite messy. And then in the early 11th century, Tibetan Buddhism began to sort of regenerate in Tibet. And this was marked by increased travel from India to Tibet, as key Tibetans traveled to India for instruction, and scholars from Nalanda Monastery traveled to Tibet. And the foremost of these Indian masters was Lama Atisha. And so Lama Atisha was actually invited personally by the current king, who wanted to kind of, re-establish Buddhism in Tibet. And initially Atisha committed to staying in Tibet for 3 years, but he was so well loved by all the Tibetans there that he ended up staying for a total of 12 years, finally passing away in Tibet. And he asked when the king asked him to come, and there's this whole story about gold and da-da-da, and anyway, you can look that up later, but if I go into it now, it's going to take forever. So the king invited him, and he asked his teachers, is it okay for me to go there? What does it look like? And his teacher said, well, if you stay here in India, you'll live to 95. And if you go to Tibet, you'll probably die younger, 75. So because he really wanted to be of benefit to people, he decided to go to Tibet. And I have to say, it's not an easy journey getting from India to Tibet. He had to negotiate. He would have been in Nalanda, which was in Rajgir, which is northern eastern India. You saw it on the map last time. But it's still a long way. So he would have had to negotiate, probably he would have had to trek through Nepal, and he probably would have had to negotiate high mountain passes and jungles and tigers and disease and extremely uncomfortable. And there's no kind of North Face there or Patagonia where you can go buy a nice kind of down vest and some waterproof gear. I mean, you just had whatever clothes. Yeah, it was dangerous. There was like bandits on the road, and I mean, it wasn't it was not an easy journey. So the trip took months to prepare and months to complete. So it was quite difficult to get there. So for someone to make a decision to do that wouldn't have been a very light one. For now, we can just get on a plane and go somewhere. But for these people, it was, it was quite a serious matter to make a decision like that. So anyway, this is Lama Atisha, and he wrote that little text, Lamp on the Path, and we will start looking at those teachings next week. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche, in his immense kindness, decided that the mind was very important. So anyone who's done any study with either Venerable Robina, you will know she always talks about the mind. and is always introduced in the November course at Kopan Monastery. They always talk about the mind. Annie Karen always talks about the mind. I suspect you probably does, Geshe Shera probably also Gendon. So any of you who've studied with these, any of our teachers in the FPMT, they always talk about the mind. It's like the first thing they talk about when they start the lamrim. So let's just say, like, what is the mind? So the mind, or is also spoken, they talk about interchangeably, they use the word mind or consciousness. And this refers to the entire spectrum of our internal experiences, all our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our tendencies, our personality characteristics, our unconscious, subconscious, intuition, spirit. All of this is known as mind in Tibetan Buddhism. It has no color, no shape. It is not physical. It is not the brain. But it does have an intimate relationship with the brain and the 5 sense organs: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and our tactile sense organ of touch. And in the human being, the mind depends on the brain and the nervous system and the sense organs for its functioning and expression. The brain itself is not consciousness. Lama Zopa Rinpoche says the workshop is in the mind. So this is where we're doing all our work. It's hard to get initially, but if you've been studying Buddhism long enough, after a while it starts to make sense. Because they talk about these, the ear consciousness and the eye consciousness, the nose consciousness. I'm not going to go into that in any great depth because it's just long and complicated. But basically they say, like, the eye consciousness is not what's seeing things. And probably scientists would know that anyway. But the eye consciousness can only detect color and shape. And the mind does the rest. The brain is also a big part of that, of course, obviously. The mind is not made by God or some other higher being. And this is where I think Buddhism separates from some of the other religions, where they have a higher being who say man was made in God's image. Buddha says that's not really the case. He says you make yourself. And we'll see a little bit later why that happens. And your mind is also not made by your mother and father. Although people might argue, but I look just like my mother. I have the same talents as my mother. Me and my sister look almost exactly the same. How can you say, but you have the karma to be born in that particular family who has these particular talents because of what you've created in the past. So they didn't actually make you. You had karmic seeds ripened for you to be born in that particular family. And your mind is a river of mental moments, one moment arising from the previous moment of itself. It has its own continuity and is beginningless. So the present moment of mind, if you think about it, your current moment of mind must have come from a previous moment of mind, which also came from a previous moment and one before that. And you can keep tracking it back and back and back, and you will never find the first moment. It's a bit like the chicken and the egg. And no matter how far back we trace the continuity of our mental moments, whichever moment we get to, that moment simply can't have got there on its own. It didn't just kind of pop out there out of nowhere. We can never find a first moment because each moment has necessarily come from a previous moment of that very continuity of mind. That's why they call it a river of mental moments. And we want to find the first moment. We're always looking for something. Where did that begin? When did that start? I talk about when I was studying psychology. When did this problem begin? Probably didn't begin when we thought it began. Probably began much, much earlier that, or maybe in another lifetime. And His Holiness, this famous saying, His Holiness said when he was talking to scientists one time, he said, Big Bang, no problem, just not the first Big Bang, that's all. So the other thing about our mind is it has always been clear and luminous and knowing and always will be. So this is what is at our very core, this pure, clear stuff. And that's what the previous meditation was trying to get us to experience. And this is kind of Lama Yeshe's big thing, was for Westerners to learn to get a taste of their own potential. And he was always trying, from what I understand, trying to encourage people to taste their potential, to give them some kind of inspiration. Because when you're dealing with unpacking your mind, it can be a little bit confronting, you know. So it's good to know that you have this at the very base. The very basis of your being is this, not all the other junk that we sometimes get wrapped up in. And every living being, every sentient being, possesses within them the potential for this perfection. So right now, our awareness is limited, but it can become limitless. Did you see that movie, Limitless? It's kind of inspiring. I thought it was really sweet. There is a nice movie out there called Limitless. You could check it out. So the term in Tibetan for sentient being is Sem Chen, mind possessor. And according to Buddha, there is not an atom of space where there are not sentient beings or mind possessors. And each one of these mind possessors has the potential to be a Buddha, or what they call fully awake or awakened in Sanskrit. That's what Buddha means in Sanskrit, awake, fully awake. And so in the same sense that an acorn is potentially an oak tree, if we give it the correct conditions, it will grow into an oak tree. It won't grow into a rose. It won't be anything else except an oak tree. So it's the same with us. We can develop our good qualities slowly, slowly. It takes patience, and you have to be humble as well. I mean, you can't have this great expectation it's going to happen overnight. And we're doing this practice in the evening, this Vajrasattva practice. And, you know, it's just everyone who's doing it realizes it's kind of a slow process, you know, to sort of every night go, okay, so I'm going to refrain from this, this, and this, and then next day somehow it just pops out the mouth again. But anyway. So we can develop our good qualities, our love, our wisdom, our kindness, our generosity, to a state of perfection. It just does take time, but it's all there and it is possible. It's not impossible. And Buddha says this is who we really are and who we've always been. You create your own mind from moment to moment. So we have a choice, moment from moment, how we will react to things. Like when you're in the traffic, right? And somebody cuts in front of you. Or today I was trying to get to yoga and we have this traffic light here, right? And it's like a 5 or 6 traffic light. If you get stuck on a red on this traffic light, it's at least 5 or 6 minutes of you sitting there. People turn their cars off, they start doing emails. I mean, it's just notorious. And so today, I think there was a number of things happening. Maybe it was a water leak or something. And we'd all been sitting in this line for already 10 minutes because of there was men working on the road. And then this truck comes across when their light was green, and he's sitting across the crossing, and it's on the green light. And we all know that if he doesn't move by the time our green light changes, we're going to be there for another 10 minutes. So I'm sitting there this morning going, no. So now and then I decided I could have had a choice there at that moment. Rather than getting frustrated, I could have thought, well, how does the truck driver feel right now? He's probably busy. You know, like it was, I had a choice in that moment of how I wanted to react to the truck blocking my way for 5 minutes of my life, which is not very much time. And you do have the power to change your mind. And you do, as Lama Yeshe says, you do have the power to mold your mind into any shape you want. So when you are truly practicing Dharma, you actually need to be working on your mind. So what we're looking at today is, you know, a little bit about what Buddhists look like on this bit, not, but in a moment we're going to start looking about what Buddhism looks like from the outside, what traditionally we see as Buddhist practitioners. So we're going to look a little bit at the precepts, the vows that you can take as a Buddhist if you wish. But I'm constantly hearing from people, you know, you need to be working on your mind. You need to work on your mind. You will hear from your teachers, particularly if you have anything to do with Venerable Robina. She'll say, I need you to work on your mind, dear. And what she's meaning there is, if you have jealousy, you need to deal with that in your own mind. But the thing is, we do have the power to do it. We just this is why we need these teachings. We need support. We need to do a little bit of purification. We need to do perhaps some prostrations. These are all methods to help us train our mind and give us a little bit of merit. So I'm going to read a story by Karuna Ketan. Some of you had received teachings from him. So he's a psychologist in this area. He writes books. He's very, very smart and extremely sweet. And he has tons of stories about his life with Lama Yeshe. Like if you've ever traveled, one time he took us from Rinpoche's house to some teachings at Vajrapani Institute many years ago. And it was just stories about Lama Yeshe from the moment we left home to the moment we got back. And it was so sweet. So I'm going to read it to you. So this is Lama Atisha. When he was traveling to Tibet, he had a cook. So all these high scholars had attendants, right? So he had this cook that was not very friendly. And I'll talk to you about him. So this is, Karuna says, I want to share an anecdote that captures what the practice is all about and how transformative it can be. This is the Buddhist practice of working on your mind. So among the party traveling to Tibet was Atisha's personal cook, who was known as a very difficult person to get along with. And indeed, the Tibetans found him rude, crass, and unfriendly. But even worse, the cook's terrible behavior did not merely extend to the Tibetans, but to Atisha himself. And the Tibetans just could not understand why Lama Atisha would keep such an unsavory person as his cook. Wasn't travel hard enough? However, Atisha never showed any sense of intolerance, anger, or embarrassment over his cook's behavior. Then, as now, traveling can sometimes bring out the worst in people, and the Tibetans were impressed that Atisha showed only affection for the cook. Finally, though, they couldn't stand it, and they asked Atisha, why did he just not fire the man and send him back to India? And Lama Atisha replied, he is not just my cook, he is my teacher of patience. And with that one simple statement, Lama Atisha demonstrated to the Tibetans and to us the entire concept of transforming one's inner experience through mind training. And indeed, Lama Zopa Rinpoche has advised people, if they make you angry, if they've hurt you, you put a picture of them on your altar and you prostrate to them and you regard them as your guru. That's kind of intense, right? Isn't it? It's very intense. So what time are we at? Oh, I'm a little bit behind. So I also wanted to tell you about something that happened on Saturday night. So Sunday is my one day where I like to sleep in, right? And so I didn't set the alarm and I went to bed and I'd noticed these men putting witches' hats out around the road when I went for my walk at about 5 o'clock, and I was like, oh, I wonder what this is interesting. Anyway, So around about 10:30, these big lights come bang on, just like in a stadium, that bright, in right through my window. And I'm like, whoa. And then starts, boom, 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 right outside my window. And so, of course, what they're doing, these workmen on a Saturday night at 10:30 are digging up the street. And the reason they're digging up the street because a main had burst. And then that kind of main noise went on for more than 20 minutes. And then I must have got to sleep. The machines were still going. Then at 2:00 in the morning, I woke up again. And again, more noise. And I just didn't know. I don't know. I was just outraged because I also need to work on this presentation that we're doing right now. And so I was just getting more and more frustrated. So eventually I moved in to the Gompa where I am now, sitting on this couch. It's not very comfortable. So I dozed around till about 3:30, and then I went back, and of course they'd stopped by then. And then I started to think, I could have thought about this a little bit differently. Rather than getting frustrated, I could have thought, well, how about these guys that were actually working on a Saturday night? It was dusty, it was miserable, it was cold. And then how about the people whose front door they were actually right outside? I mean, those people would have gotten no sleep whatsoever because the street that they were working on is quite narrow. I was a little bit of a distance from them. So I just thought to myself, I could have done it a little bit differently, but in the moment I found it a little bit difficult because it was so incredibly loud. Anyway, that's and then probably a more poignant example is you've probably heard Venerable Bina talk about this woman she's not Buddhist. She and her husband were hitchhiking with their kids many, many years ago. I think it was in the 70s. And somehow they were picked up by these guys who were wanted by the police. And then the police stopped them, accused them of having drugs or something, and somehow one of the policemen got killed. And these two hippies were accused of murder. They were put in separate prisons. The children were taken away from them. And eventually the husband was also put to death, but they were innocent. And so she knew that they were innocent. She had lost her relationship with her kids. I think they're better now, but she said, I'm a monk. I'm living in a cave, and they can take away my freedom, but they can't take away my mind. So this is how she survived and kept her sanity inside the prison. So this is incredibly transformative to me. I find this very, very inspiring. And she now is living in Ireland, and she's running an organisation that helps prisoners who have been unfairly convicted. So anyway. So do we all remember about suffering from last week? Yes? Did anybody think about suffering? Suffering of suffering, all that gross suffering, suffering of change, all pervasive suffering. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is very quickly, because I've somehow got the light. So this is one of the foundation teachings of Buddhism, the Four Seals. This is what does being Buddhist look like. And all compounded phenomena are impermanent. Now, what on earth does that mean? What are compounded phenomena? Well, they're just things. Things are impermanent. Our iPad is impermanent. Our relationships are impermanent. Our cats and dogs are impermanent. And we know they are, but we don't want things to be impermanent. We get really upset when things break, and it makes us feel really insecure. We want permanence, but we have to understand things are not permanent, and we'll relax. Once we realize that things aren't permanent, we're going to relax a lot more around things when they do break or when things do go missing. And of course you need to protect your life and your home and everything and your relationships and your pets and take care of them, but it's good to understand and appreciate the reality of life. Things change. And all contaminated things are unsatisfactory. And again, what on earth does that mean? That because we're in samsara, everything here in samsara is said to be contaminated because it's samsara. And it's unsatisfactory because, I can't get no satisfaction, as they said, the Rolling Stones said. So we understand that. Chocolate cake is unsatisfactory. if you don't have enough or if you have too much. TikTok is so popular, and I swear it's because people aren't really satisfied, so they get to the next video, 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 just to see what might be happening in the next video. That makes me crazy. I think TikTok can steal your life if you let it. So if you don't have it downloaded, don't. And all phenomena are selfless. And this doesn't mean that they're not selfish. It means that they're empty of inherent existence. It's not existing from its own side, and things are appearing to us differently than they actually exist. So we're just doing it very, very briefly, and Nirvana is peace, and this is what Buddha said. Once you can get on top of all of these things, you will find peace. But this is your own liberation here, so we're still in the wisdom wing. So now I'm going to move on to the 5 precepts. So if you are interested in taking refuge with any of your teachers, they will give you a preparatory talk about the 5 precepts. You can take refuge without taking the vows, and you can take either 5 vows or 4 or 3 or 2 or 1, whatever you think you can do. But I would suggest that if you don't want to take the killing vow, perhaps you're not quite ready to be a Buddhist. So Buddha said, do not kill, even tiny insects. Well, why? Because people don't like it. Beings don't like to be killed. You know, when you squash an ant, they kind of like go like this, and they let off this smell. I mean, they didn't like being killed. All these sentient beings, they have these minds. They want to desperately protect their life. And you can see that. Every little animal desperately wants to protect its own life. And so we don't want to kill because it harms people. They don't like it, and it creates suffering for them. And there often comes this issue about what do you do with your pets when they're dying, because all the time the vets will recommend you put them down. And it's a very, very difficult issue. And myself, I have experienced looking after a dog who was passing away, that we decided not to put down. And it was extremely difficult, and there was many times where I could understand why people thought that getting the vet involved would have been a good idea. It's a very, very difficult process. It's time-consuming, it's very expensive, and it's heartbreaking to help an animal. You can support an animal with painkillers and prayers and things like that, but you have to be prepared to be able to spend a lot of time with them. So anyway, that's what I have to say about the pets. It's not an easy topic. Not stealing. So Lama Rinpoche's definition is taking the ungiven, and this includes fraud and forgery. And no sexual misconduct. And nowadays this is defined by some teachers as being responsible with your sexuality. So don't go running around with somebody else's partner if you don't have an agreement with your own partner, or that other person doesn't have an agreement with their partner that it's okay to do so. So that's how they're sort of defining it these days. There used to be a lot more detail about what sexual misconduct was, but it's now changed. It's evolved. Buddhism tends to evolve over time. And no lying, including exaggeration and omission. Harsh speech. This includes harsh speech and writing and even body language. And no intoxicants or ingesting substances that can alter one's state of mind. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama now gives this particular vow as sort of not really losing your wits. Like you can go and have a drink, but not to get drunk. So that's how he does it now. So we're at 7:13, and I really wanted to do this meditation on the continuity of consciousness. So I'll give you guys a choice, either the Eightfold Noble Path or continuity of consciousness. Would you prefer to do a meditation, or you listen to me rabbiting on a little bit more? Meditation.
Meditation.
You guys love meditation.
The
It's
Eightfold
wonderful.
Path?
Oh, someone wants the Eightfold Noble Path. Okay. I might be able to do both if you're happy to stay 5 minutes longer. Okay, I'll just go quickly. Right view. This is at the everyday level, and this is very much that we are on the wisdom wing here. So very much the Theravada tradition. Cause and effect. Death is not the end, and our actions have consequences beyond death. So I'm going to just go very, very fast through this. Right resolve. This involves not harming yourself and others, and we do a little bit of that at night in the Vajrasattva meditation. And Buddha's Day, and also you can do these 10-day retreats in the Theravada tradition where you shave your head and you step away from the householder's life. So you're devoting yourself to your practice and you're renouncing certain things. Lama Yeshe says you're renouncing suffering. He talked about renunciation from suffering as being kind to yourself. So I think it's just about you make a decision you're going to do your practice properly and not muck around. Right speech. Not lying, talking about others behind their backs, rabbiting on about nothing, idle chatter, wasting other people's energy and your own, speaking harshly, and trying to use our speech meaningfully. Right behavior. Again, it's not about harm, it's about not harming. No killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, intoxicants, etc. So that's the vows. Right livelihood, again, about not harming others in the process of earning a living. So, are you cheating people in your living? Are you kind of lying to people? Are you trying to get more money out of them that's sort of not really in accordance with the service that you're giving? Right effort. What am I spending my time and energy doing? How am I using my precious time? In virtuous activities? Or am I watching TikTok? Right contemplation. This is, what am I doing? What am I thinking about all day? And being conscious of what you're doing and keeping your mind focused on virtue, maybe on Dharma, maybe on working on your mind. It's all about focus, not harming others. And right meditation. In the Theravada and Vipassana traditions, this involves concentration, equanimity, and insight into impermanence. Wow, well, that didn't take very long, did it? Okay. No, wait, not finished yet. Hang on. Okay. All right, I'm going to do this. Well, thank you who asked for that. It was Susan, because we got through it in about 3 minutes. Okay. Now this... Okay. So this meditation you can find in the Discovering Buddhism course. I'm going to lead you through it. It's in the Discovering Buddhism course on the mind, so module 1. All right, so let's just settle back into our meditation posture. If you want, you can just have a quick drink and a wriggle if you like. I'm going to, because my throat's getting dry. Okay. All right, just bring back to your mind all the people of your life. Check your posture as well, Just make sure your shoulders are over your hips, your spine is lengthened, and relax. Bring the mind back to the breath. Now imagine you're surrounded by all the people of your life, your friends, enemies, and strangers. And bring these people to life in your meditation. Imagine that they really are here in this space, doing this meditation with you. And then adjust your motivation and consider your intention for this, your spiritual practice in general, and this meditation in particular. And very carefully make the determination to use your study and meditation to increase your understanding and insight, and to take the next step on your spiritual journey for the sake of yourself and for all those people of your life and all universal living beings. So just notice now the activity of in your mind, the flow of thoughts, emotions, sensations, judgments, projections, expectations. And just watch these mental events without involvement of any kind. No criticism, attraction, grasping or rejection, pushing away. And try and watch what is going on like a neutral scientific observer. You have no investment in the objects of observation, just watching, curious, interested. And after some time, just catch one of these moments and from that point, begin to journey backwards in time from one mental event to the previous one. So briefly scan your mental experiences, traveling backwards through the last hour. Through lunch. Through the morning, back to breakfast. And back to the moment you woke up. Is there a relationship between one moment and the previous one and the one before that? Go back to your dreams. Back to the night before. To the thoughts that you had as you went to sleep. Are there connections? Relationships between these mental events? And go back through yesterday, the day before, last week, last month, and last year. During the pandemic lockdown time. Try not to engage with any stories that might be unfolding. Just simply watch without involvement, without judgment. You're just looking for connections. And go back as far as possible in your life, watching the mental events of your youth, of your childhood, your infancy, and perhaps even your birth. And if there's anything that's arising that's not terribly comfortable, you can just allow yourself to put that to one side. You can maybe look at that a little bit later. If you can get back to your birth, what happens then? Can you remember being in the womb, in your mother's womb? The moment of conception. Try to see these possibilities. Does the flow cease? Does it continue? So just relax and let each mental event arise in its own time and observe the process at work. If your mind does start to wander off, you can just bring it very gently, coax it back, focusing on the breath. When you have gone back as far as possible, gently return to the present moment, again watching your mind activity, and observe these arising mental events without any kind of engagement or involvement, without criticism, attraction or rejection. Just looking for connections. Now imagine your stream, this mind stream, flowing out before you, one thought, and then the next, into the future. So just imagine this process. So you can imagine if you're thinking positive thoughts, where that's going to take you. Positive thoughts about yourself, about people. We can choose. So let your imagination go. Watch the possibilities for the future, your mind flowing out into the rest of the day, into tomorrow, into next week, next month, next year, and so on, until we come to the time of our death. And what happens then? Does the flow cease? Does it continue? Does it change? And what happens now? What are the possibilities? Okay, everyone, just relax. We've got a minute left. How did that happen? Okay. Just very gently bring your mind back. And if you're feeling a little bit spaced out, you can put your hands on your thighs, you feel your sit bones in your chair, the weight of your hands on your thighs. Take a nice deep breath. You can have something to drink. We covered quite a lot today. I mean, this course is kind of busy, but anyway, I hope a bit of meditation in between each thing was helpful. So does anybody have any questions before we finish today? Oopsie, that's my calendar telling me I have a meditation in half an hour.
Venerable, what are the Eightfold Path? I missed one, right? You, right resolve, right speech, right livelihood, right effort, contemplation, meditation. What did I miss?
Resolve, speech, view,
Resolve.
resolve,
No, resolve, speech, livelihood,
behavior.
behavior. Okay, I missed that one.
That's about not harming, you know. It's all about not harming. It's all about understanding how the world is really, how it's different from how we want it to be, and about not harming ourselves and other people. Well, this is what basically the wisdom wing comes down to, isn't it? Kind of quite simple. Michael, you're so polite. You always raise your hand. Where are you?
I just had one question. You said that that His Holiness was looking differently at the sexual thing. I'm wondering, is he also looking differently at the intoxicants thing? Because
Yes.
for many of us, it's not alcohol, it's not cocaine or amphetamines, it's potato chips, it's French fries, it's as you mentioned, chocolate.
It's not an I think how they define an intoxicant is something that takes you out of your own mind. So there's this really lovely story in the lamrim about this monk, and he was told, no, you can't do this. You can't go and have sex, and you can't drink, and you can't do something. Oh, you can't steal, or something like this. And so it's a ridiculous story. I'm not even going to tell it. As the story came, and this woman said to him, you can either do this, this, or this. And he thought that drinking out, you can either kill something or have sex with somebody or drink something. And he decided, well, I'll just drink something because it's going to be the least harmful for the others. But then he drank something, he ended up killing the meat to have something to eat and having sex with the woman. So it ended up being, this is just such a ridiculous story, but they use it all the time in the lamrim. I don't know. Anyway, but the point is that the alcohol puts you completely, or the intoxicants, they put you out of your normal mind. And for some people, they just become happy drunks, but some people become very, very violent. And you also start doing things that you wouldn't normally do when you're drinking. So His Holiness is saying, because so many people complained, I have a wedding with my cousins, they all think I'm weird because I'm not accepting a glass of wine, da. And in America, I know it's far more acceptable to not drink than it is in Australia. Well, when I left Australia, maybe things have changed now. But it's very much a drinking party culture over there. And I just kind of feel that I was so surprised when I first got to America because everyone was saying, I'm so-and-so and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm like, what? Why are you even telling me that? But it's just the kind of the way some people do it, I've been sober for 3 years, and it's like, we're sort of not that open about that kind of thing in Australia, although maybe some people are now. But so I think it's more acceptable here to sort of go to a party and go, like, I'm not drinking. It's totally fine. But some people say that within their family settings, it's complicated, it's difficult. And so His Holiness said, all right, then just have one drink, for lay people. Just have one drink if you take that precept. Sorry, what was your other question? You had something else?
Oh, no.
Jay is saying, what? The current generation doing the same drinking.
No, they don't drink like the traditional.
like the traditional
Aussies.
Aussies.
It's quite amazing, and
that's
plus,
great to hear.
We've got a fair amount of 100% non-alcoholic beer and wine around. So for some
Fantastic.
reason, it's important to pretend, or maybe you like the taste, but it's amazing.
It's an Australian thing.
But I'm pleased, very pleased, because
That's
it was
fantastic.
a shocker when I was hanging around with people who are now in their 30s, 40s. They were really at the pub a lot.
Yeah,
But yes, things have changed.
that's very cool. Shayla, did you want to say something? X raised hand. What's that? Who's X? Wait. You.
Hello, hi, it's me. I kind of joined late in the meeting.
No worries. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I heard that you said to do a lot of work on the minds, and you were explaining what isn't the mind. Can you go over that list so I know what not to focus on when I'm doing mindfulness and so I got not physical, no color, no shape, not the brain or the body.
Not made by God or some other higher being. Not made by your mother or father.
Okay.
They say it's a river of mental moments, one moment arising from the previous moment. That's why we did that meditation, so people could get a sense of what that feels like. And they say that your mind is actually, at the very base of your mind is this kind of pure, clear, virtuous, kind, wise, compassionate. These are the qualities that are within us: clairvoyance, brilliance, ability to see other people's minds. It's phenomenal what we're actually capable of. It's kind of mind-blowing what we actually do have the capacity with. And I think often we just don't even see what we're capable of doing. But this is why we have coaches and kind friends to support us, and we need teachers. We need people to help us who are a little bit further along the path than we are. So this is why you do need a teacher in any kind of endeavor that you're doing, if you want to make sure you don't go astray. Yeah, I mean, someone taught you how to tie your shoelaces, right? When we were at school and we had those little cardboard shoes, and they told you to, I don't know, how did they teach you here in America? Anyway, took me ages to learn how to tie shoes, but anyway, everyone. So you know what, it's 7:37 and we have Vajrasattva meditation in about 20 minutes. So I'm going to pop off now if there are not any more questions, and I think Mary might want to take a break too, and some of you who are coming. But you're all very welcome to come. It's a purification practice. It's a very, very sweet practice, and people have been doing it now for over a year, coming regularly every night, which is kind of amazing. And so it includes a mantra and visualization, and it just helps you to get rid of some of these karmic seeds that we're planting every day with our anger and this and that. Everything that we do helps to purify that. So it's just a practice that's recommended in this particular tradition that we do every night. So if you're interested, please come along. Other than that, I really look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you very much for coming. It's lovely to have you all.
Thank you,
Right.
Venerable.